Mm-hmm. That's right. Welcome to your I Never Worry podcast with DB and John, where we discuss emotional intelligence with everyday people dealing with everyday situations. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever this podcast may find your ears. We appreciate you for tuning in and joining us. We have a great episode in store for you today. If you've been around the Bay, Oakland in particular, but anywhere in the Bay Area, then you may have heard of this man, Mr. Family Entertainment, Breaking Bread. Earl McLeod in the studio today, speaking on the things he's doing in the community, and just, we're talking emotional intelligence, everyday conversations, everyday people. Earl, who you with? Is that you?
This is Earl McLeod, and I am with the I Never Worry podcast right now.
And you know this, man.
All right. Welcome to the I Never Worry podcast. My name is DB Bedford, your emotional intelligence consultant. And today we got a very powerful guest here. My man, I've been knowing him for over 25 years. His name is Earl McLeod, a.k.a. Mr. Phony, Family Entertainment, and Breaking Bread. Now, this gentleman right here, you know, we've been through the trenches. You know, we've grown through adolescence. And now today, you know, we're both in Oakland, you know, East Oakland, you know, doing our best that we can to raise awareness in the community of just different ways of thinking and different mindsets. And here on the I Never Worry podcast, you know, we like to discuss emotional intelligence with everyday people that's managing everyday situations. So I want to start off and let my man come on in and introduce himself and tell us how you're feeling today.
Oh yeah, hold on. I'm here too. In case
I thought because you
your co-host.
Because you was a little under the weather. I thought you was trying to fly in stealth mode.
No,
did not mean to leave.
I'm still here.
Leave out my co-host.
No. I added these things. You never introduced me, so I just thought I'd say something this time.
Oh yeah.
Mr. Phony, what's going on with you, brother?
Oh man, a whole lot. You know, first and foremost, always like to give it up to God, you know, for getting us up and allowing us to come out and do the things that we do.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, so you know, thanks for taking your time out on a Sunday to come hang out with us and, you know, be on the podcast. And I want to just kind of get right into it though, because, you know, given a historical context, you know, we met, you know, back at Juvenile Hall back in the 80s. You know, we grew up, you know, different parts of the town, and then sometimes at the same time, all of our, you know, family and friends cross-populate. So we have a real tight connection in terms of growing up over the last 25 years. And what I think is common for both of us, that we used to use our powers for evil, right, so to speak, but now we use it for the greater good. And there's some things that has happened, at least for me, that has made me see life in a different perspective. So, you know, having a temper and feeling like the only way to respond to conflict growing up in Oakland was with violence. Then there was a shift. You know, I realized that, you know, in my last case where I kind of lost my temper and tried to take somebody out, what had a serious impact on my life. And then I got that blessing from the judge to take another opportunity to do some things better with myself. And I could have been like most people, feel like they got over.
Right.
Just kept trying to, you know, they can't hold a brother down type mentality, and kept trying to go against the grain. But I decided to use it to better myself and to better our community. And so I started discovering other tools and other ways to make that happen. And I landed on this emotional intelligence platform. And it's been a fascinating thing for me to use it in everyday situations, whether it's personally, professionally, within my marriage, with my kids, with my homeboys. You and I have had situations we needed to talk through where mutual friends, right, there was conflict. And again, you stepped in as a peacemaker, and you had to use emotional intelligence to even keep that conversation neutralized. So you're very familiar with the art of emotional intelligence. I just want to, you know, hear from you and hear a little bit about, like, when you hear the term emotional intelligence, what does it mean to you, and how does it apply to the everyday work that you do and interactions you're having in your life?
Well, I think emotional intelligence is something we all possess. You know, it's something that's been inside of you. Just growing up, we was always on that wrong side of the fence, so we was using our mind for the wrong things. But God has a plan, and in his plan, he eventually will let you unfold to what he wants you to become. It's always a bigger picture than us, and a lot of people don't realize it, that God allow us to go through the things that we go through, so when we do make the change, we can understand what the change is about. Because if you never was on the other side of the fence, how do you know now that you're on the right side of the fence?
Right. So we were talking before the mics came on. I was saying, man, we're gonna talk about everyday situations that happen. You was like, man, something happened the other night or last night at the bar that you had to kind of neutralize. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, so last night we was doing the rodeo roundup at Apartment C. It's our second annual, and we celebrate John Tier bathroom area. And someone stopped me and said, hey, it's a conflict in the bathroom, because now it's a long line of people waiting to get in the women's bathroom. So, I stepped to the plate, and usually men are not able to go in the women's bathroom, so I just kind of knocked at the door, and they opened the door. And when they opened the door, I seen there was two sets of women that was just beautifully getting into it with each other. Some beautiful queens, and it's just like, hold on, wait a minute, what's going on, y'all? First of all, this is a public restroom, and you're being inconsiderate to others by discussing whatever the altercation is in here, and you got a line of people outside ready to use the bathroom. And we all know how it is when you got to use the bathroom, right? So, them not using their emotional intelligence and overlooking the fact that I'm trying to diffuse the situation, they continue to argue and do what they do. So I had to, kind of step in a little further and say, hey, excuse me, I'm part of the management of this establishment, and I'm going to have to ask you guys to come out of the restroom because you're holding up, the business for the customers. So one of the ladies came out. Three of the other ladies, they stayed in talking. One came out. When the other one came out, I was asking her, please, ma'am, don't go back in, because if you go back in, the altercation is going to retake what I'm trying to break up. So now the friend runs in my face, and she's like, hey, don't be talking to her. And, and I'm like, putting my hands up like, can you back up? And she's like, don't touch me. And I'm like, well, I'm not trying to touch you. I'm just trying to do my job. And if you would walk away, I won't have to touch you. And she's getting closer and closer in my face. And now it's getting to the point where it's like, okay, I got to make a decision, keeping it professional. Am I going to let this lady put her hands on me, or am I going to walk away and get someone else to come back to address the situation so that I don't find myself in an altercation that I know I don't need to be in? And I feel like that was my emotional intelligence kicking in, because
Yeah, but tell me, so how does one in the middle of a conflict, you're trying to be positive and resolve it. She comes with the added flair to it, right? About don't touch her and escalating. What was it that you were telling yourself that kept it neutralized? What were the thoughts that helped you say, I know I could go there, sister. I know I could just ring the bell and have you taken up out of here, because that's power, right? You the man in everything that you do. So if you telling folks that this ain't cool, people are going to respond to it ain't being cool. So how do you balance that, right? And know when to, you know what I mean? How far to go with trying to resolve it before you push play on the other side of the game?
Well, it's case by case. And in this case, if you're going to frequent in any area where there's liquor and alcohol, you got to know that there's going to be times where you're going to be up against these kind of situations. So first and foremost, as a vanguard and a man for the people, I'm going to always think, if that was me in that situation, would I want somebody to take advantage of me because I'm intoxicated? So being that she was intoxicated, she get a pass that we normally don't give people where we come from. That's having emotional intelligence and understanding that I would be more ignorant to address her knowing that she's intoxicated and under the influence, instead of working with her like I did and being patient with them myself, and also knowing if I am to address her in the wrong way, I got more to lose than her, because now my business is up against a lawsuit. She may have brothers or cousins or somebody that want to come back and revenge something that was stupidly on her part from the gate. And just growing up and learning right from wrong, your emotional intelligence kicks in at these times of matters.
Yes, sir. And one of the things that we teach with the emotional intelligence platform, one of the skill sets is never to take anything personally.
Yes.
So it sounds like you were able to have some discernment in that moment. You're like, I'm not going to even take this personal, even though you are disrespecting my establishment. You are creating a conflict that's unnecessary. I'm still not going to take it personal. And one of the things we talk about is forward thinking 2 steps ahead about what the consequences might be, right, for the decision that was made. So it sounds like you was able to have that in tune, which now we want to know what was the outcome of the situation. How did it all play out? Because you used emotional intelligence in it. Tell us how it all played out and what you thought might have happened different if you did anything different.
Well, I think if I wouldn't have did like you said and thought forward in the outcome of what it could have been, the natural human nature of things, I would have reacted to it. Because if you push up on a cat, a dog, anything, God installed it in all of us to push back. So she could have got to push back, but I pray on everything I do before I go into it. I never give a barbecue, a picnic. I came here and I prayed. Before anything I do, I always put God first to make sure I have that balance in my life with what I'm about to do. And just so happened, he allowed a few females that I knew to walk by. So now it was no longer a man and female situation. Now God had let his ordained come in and allowed these females to now take control over it to where they could address it in manners that I couldn't as a man, and the situation basically worked itself out from there.
Yes, sir. And so and that's like divine intervention.
Yes, it is.
You know what I mean? And I like to use the terminology of like energy and just frequencies. I feel like we all operate on different frequencies, and energy is really exchanged, right, and transferred throughout the day and through every interaction.
Yes, this is true.
And with the emotional intelligence platform, we talk about self-awareness, right? That's the number one key to being emotionally intelligent, right? People understanding like how they feel in a moment's notice. How do you feel when you get up? How do you feel once you got in the car? How do you feel while you're in transition? When conversations start to happen throughout the day, how do you feel about them? Just like you said, you prayed before you got up and came here today. It's like, how do you feel about, coming to see your boy, jumping on the podcast? All that play a part in how you're going to respond for the day and how you're going to receive information. And so having good self-awareness, which sounds like that's exactly what you were doing, allowed you to put some space in between your responses. It allowed you to be patient, have some patience with this individual that was pushing the limit a little bit. And this is what we're trying to illuminate to our audiences, right? That situations are going to happen every single day and in the moment. And we're responsible, right, for how we act, no matter how we feel.
Hey, this is true. This is true, and it's the thing I always say. What you speaking on about taking accountability for yourself is what they call it in the corporate world. And there's a point where you can be your worst enemy, or you can be like what I became, my number one fan.
Yes, sir.
Every day I wake up, I look in the mirror, I want to kiss it. And I do. I want to kiss it, because this is the problem with people, that we don't love ourselves enough to know when we doing wrong or we doing right, and when you be your worst enemy, you will give yourself more problems than anything anyone else can do in the world. You will put yourself in more situations than any friend or family member or anybody can, and that's because lack of love, whether it was growing up or bad relationships. A lot of things we go through play a part in how we are and how we feel. The food that you eat and you put in your body plays a part in how you feel. So once you learn to become your number one fan and not your own worst enemy, you'll be able to make a lot of good decisions in life.
And to go to this point, like, talk a little bit about the transition. You just say you just had this event like at Apartment C, and there was Apartment C in 1996, and there's Apartment C today. And where I'm going with this is the fact that you've remained in the community doing what it is that you do, when quite easily you could have changed your business model to where maybe dealing with a lot of things that you like, maybe some of the things that you deal with, you could have felt like, oh, if I do it this way, if I do it that way, I don't have to, you know what I'm saying? Like, and I want to say, like, dealing with our people or dealing with our community. Like, so talk about the fact of,
you could have a bar in San Leandro.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. Fremont.
You don't have to deal with the unnecessary conflict that, our community can
And
can
I think that
ignite.
there's conflict. I mean, I think there can't be conflict. Like, don't get